Between 2015 and 2019, the Golden State Warriors dominated the league in historic fashion. With a win percentage north of 78%, an offensive rating that was noticeably above league average, 5 straight trips to the finals, and 3 championships to show for it, there's an argument to be made that this iteration of the Warriors is not only the best in franchise history, but arguably the greatest stretch of teams that have been formulated by any franchise in the NBA throughout the 75 years the league has existed. However, here we are in 2021 and things have drastically changed. Thanks to injuries, a depleting bench, and Kevin Durant joining the Brooklyn Nets, heading into the upcoming season, the expectations for this team can range drastically, which honestly is understandable. There are several different question marks for the Warriors heading into the upcoming year, and I do understand why many people are skeptical or even just hesitant to crown the Warriors with some level of success that will put them in the conversation to contend for a championship. However, before the season even begins, I'm here to reassure you to not overthink it because yes, the Warriors are back and they are a legit title contending team. First, let's talk about the iconic trio that started it all with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. Now, the reason why I want to start in this direction is because with the level of experience, talent, and chemistry that has been built with these 3 players, the expectations to be a playoff team and to be able to compete for a conference finals appearance, quite honestly, should be a no-brainer. And a big reason why I believe this has a lot to do from what I just witnessed from Curry and Draymond last year. When both players were healthy, available, and playing alongside one another, they were able to propel the Golden State Warriors to a 58.6 win percentage, which is roughly on par on a 48 win pace during a normal regular season, and a huge reason why they saw that level of success last year has a lot to just do with how talented the 2 players are, regardless of the talent surrounding them. Now, for Curry, I do believe the talent and skill set is a bit more tangible and identifiable. Last year, Curry finished the season averaging 32 points with a true shooting percentage of 65.5%, which not only meant that he was easily the league's best volume scorer last year, but also playing at that level means that he was performing at all-time heights. Throughout NBA history, there have only been 3 other occasions when a player is able to average 30 points while having a true shooting percentage of 65% or greater. 2 of those times occurred with Adrian Dantley back in the 83 and 84 season, and the other player who was able to accomplish this was Steph Curry back in 2016. So yeah, if there were any doubts that Steph Curry would be able to duplicate the level of dominance that we saw from him during his unanimous MVP campaign should be completely out the window because essentially we saw it right before our eyes all throughout last year. Now, in terms of Draymond, it's a bit more trickier, and a lot of that just has to do with the intangibles that he possesses, especially on the defensive end. And sure, I can highlight several different defensive metrics that would justify my point, such as defensive box score plus minus, which last year he finished 2nd in the league, or even defensive win shares, where he finished 5th in the NBA last season. But of course, to fully understand how impactful Draymond was on the defensive end, you just have to watch him play. Draymond was still active in passing lanes, still destructive and fighting for positions, and still was able to make it difficult for taller, dominant offensive players. And oh yes, let me not forget that Draymond last year had a career high in assists per game, averaging nearly 9, and I do believe a huge reason for this has to do with the chemistry that he and Curry has built over the past couple of years, but a new fold was brought into the mix of the Warriors offense last year with the young, up-and-coming athletic pieces that were surrounding both Draymond and Curry. And because of this, especially during transition, Draymond had a lot more valuable options to get easy assists. However, everything isn't positive with Draymond. His inability to take advantage of open 3-pointers concerned me tremendously, and I do believe a bit of the magic that was captured by Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors back during the 2015 and 2016 seasons is no longer there, largely because the rest of the league is caught up to the small ball movement, which I believe is a very legitimate concern because when you go back and you see how Green was producing pre-Kevin Durant, even as a 3rd or 4th option, he was still a consistent scoring threat. But even with those concerns, I still don't believe there's going to be monumental enough to shake my beliefs that Draymond and Curry as a duo will be impactful enough to lead this team to a conference finals. And even if you don't believe that to be true, Klay Thompson coming back, even at 80 or 90% of who he once was before, should easily put them in conversations to be a competitive 2nd round out. Now, when it comes to Klay Thompson, unfortunately, we don't really have that much to go off of with him being sidelined for 2 years in a row. And with him dealing with injuries pertaining to his lower body, there are certainly legitimate concerns with his productivity on the defensive end, but one could argue that level of impact may not be as necessary as it once was before, with Andrew Wiggins already transcending to be an above average perimeter defender. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if by the end of the year, Wiggins continues to take the right steps in the right direction and turns into an elite perimeter defender for the Warriors. And with that role and responsibility taken off of Klay Thompson's plate, I do believe Klay will still be impactful enough to help out on the second or third option on the perimeter while still being a marksman from 3 on the other side of the floor. So with Curry, Klay, and Dre out the way, as well as us addressing some of Wiggins' input to this team, now we can get into the meat and the potatoes of a lot of the mystery that comes along with the Warriors, because the ceiling and floor for the rest of the roster is what really makes this team captivating. First, let's talk about everyone's favorite preseason scoring machine, and that is Jordan Poole. Poole is a 6'4" lanky shooting guard who has shown a lot of promise over the past couple of months. And no, this is not just people overreacting to preseason play. Even towards the tail end of last season, the 22-year-old showed a lot of promise to be a solid contributor to a team who is trying to compete for a championship. And a huge reason for this has a lot to just do with how dynamic of a scorer he is, to the point where he can have very explosive moments. Poole is an exceptional ball handler and shot creator, and I believe this is best seen during pick and roll situations where he can not only create his own shot from deep, but also get into the paint and penetrate a little bit and stop on a dime around the elbow and make a couple of jumpers in that area. Also, with his ability to put the ball on the floor comfortably, he can easily beat slower footed big men to the basket, and with his potential as a 3-level scorer, we can already see moments where he has a lot of gravity when he's coming off of screens or penetrating to the basket. And when that does happen, the offensive repertoire continues to expand. He's a solid passer and already shows a level of patience that you would expect from someone with possibly 3 or 4 more years of experience out of the pick and roll situation. And all of this is really just encompassing how great of a feel he has for the game. Not only as a shooter, but also as a cutter to the rim, Poole should be able to fit in seamlessly in the starting lineup until Klay Thompson return. And even when he moves to the bench, I still believe he's going to be a consistent contributor, especially on a team that's going to need a little bit more dynamic offensive play from someone else not named Curry and possibly Klay Thompson. The only 2 major concerns I have for Poole is that he still has not been able to figure out the proper way to use his size when he's attacking the basket, or at least have some type of body control in the air when he's looking for contact so he can still finish at the rim. And the other thing that concerns me is his ability to just stay in front of his defender, because if he is switched on to any elite level ball handler in today's league, I don't see how Jordan Poole is going to be productive whatsoever in that scenario. So all in all, I don't really see that many negatives, and if you aren't familiar with Jordan Poole yet, trust me, you will be if your team gets caught up in that Poole party, because there are times where Jordan Poole can go on these hot streaks and go on runs where he can single-handedly carry the Warriors offense when Klay, Draymond, or even Curry is off the floor. Up next, we have James Wiseman, and yeah, this is where a lot of those question marks for the Golden State Warriors lie. Now, unfortunately, last year, we only got to see a handful of games due to injuries from the young big man, but there were some positive things that we can highlight, and hopefully we will probably see in this upcoming season. For one, Wiseman's athleticism really translated to the NBA, especially in open space during transition and in pick and roll situation, which I do believe will be duplicating this upcoming year, not only because the Warriors are a transition team, but also because there's more competent scorers surrounding him in the half-court set. So in pick and roll and dribble handout situations, Wiseman will be able to take full advantage very quickly on the wide open lane. Also, with his athleticism, theoretically speaking, he should be able to be a competent defender, especially when it comes to rotation and help defense at the rim. However, I don't want to make any bold conclusions on that side of the floor, because that is where Wiseman's growth is going to have to be seen the most. Sure, offensively, there's still going to be a lot that is lacking. Wiseman's passing ability certainly isn't there. His awareness offensively in terms of anticipating double teams or even just finding the open cutter is also not where it needs to be for a Warriors team that implements a lot of player movement. And anytime Wiseman decided to post up, it was just unnecessary, even on smaller defenders. But again, I do believe offensively it will be simplified for him thanks to the extra offensive scoring pieces surrounding him. But on the defensive end, it won't be that easy, and arguably it's just going to be much more difficult because the expectations for the Warriors has significantly increased within a year's time. Because even though, yeah, it would be nice if Wiseman was able to take, let's just say, a DeAndre Ayton type leap that we saw from Ayton last year, and how much of improvement we saw saw from him on the defensive end. However, I'm not expecting that, largely because I don't believe Wiseman received the amount of reps that he was supposed to last season, and even when he was attempting to commit to play that level of defense, he just fouled way too often. Last year, Wiseman averaged over 3 fouls per game while only playing 21 minutes. So as long as Wiseman knows when and where to rotate, as long as he knows when to help and how much help he should be giving, not only in the perimeter, but also at the rim, and making sure he doesn't give up easy bailout shots to the opposing team towards the tail end of a shot clock, I do believe the young big man will be fine. But to be completely honest, I don't believe anyone is that certain that Wiseman will be able to do those things for the Warriors in this upcoming season. In short, Wiseman is the best example of a player who is just 2 years away from where he's supposed to be. And then finally, we have the Warriors bench, and honestly, I like it. Last year, the Warriors lacked consistency deep in their depth chart, and this year I believe they addressed a lot of those concerns. First, by bringing back Andre Iguodala, which I believe was a great pickup, not only because of his defensive IQ, his passing ability, his athleticism, and also his ability to make clutch three-point shots, but more importantly, he is comfortable and familiar with the offensive scheme, which I do believe is important in this system. Secondly, they brought in Otto Porter, 6'8" forward who can space out the floor, and I believe a lot of people may have forgotten how lethal of a shooter he really is, mainly because of injuries, but yeah, I think he's actually going to be really good for this team. Another sharpshooter that they brought in was Bjelica, 6'10" power forward who can space out the floor, and in some of the games that I saw him in, he looks pretty comfortable running in open space and also handling the ball, not only in transition, but also in a half-court setting, so that wrinkle in the offense should also be very interesting. And finally, we have Andrew Wiggins, who I touched on earlier in the video in terms of his ability to defend the perimeter, but also his ability to create his own shot, be athletic in open space, and also dribble, penetrating, kick out, which is something that I've seen him develop over the past year and a half now. Will be great for a Warriors team that needs a little bit more depth in their offense, especially when Curry is off the floor. So when you sit back and you look at the Warriors this upcoming year, we are talking about a team that has an MVP caliber player on their roster in Steph Curry, one of the better defensive players in the league in Draymond Green, a player who, even when he's 80% healthy in Klay Thompson, can give you 20 points, if not more, on great shooting efficiency. And more importantly, I believe that the Warriors actually have the depth that they have been missing over the past couple of years that should push them over the hump against a lot of teams in a deep postseason run. The only concern I have is the lack of size inside. Wiseman still has a lot of room to grow, and even though Kevin Looney is on his team, he's really only 6'9", so that's not that much size. And I'm pretty sure many people are going to say, well, what about Draymond? And yes, Draymond definitely has the capability of defending players like Nikola Jokic and Anthony Davis, but at some point, I would believe that, you can give him a break a bit, and I hope that Wiseman will be able to step up to the plate and give that relief to Draymond throughout very pivotal series, because they're desperately going to need it. But until then, I just don't know how anyone can look at this roster and not tell themselves that the Golden State Warriors are at least a 55+ win team this upcoming year. And even though I may be a little bit bullish on them, you can let me know in the comment section below. Also, huge shout out to Classy Speaks and No Layups for helping me research for this video. Their links will be in the description. I highly suggest go checking them out. And also, if you want even more NBA content from me, I have a second channel where I have more reaction-based raw content, and I talk about the NBA. And actually, the video that I probably will upload either today or tomorrow will be my top 75 list all time, because yeah, the NBA did a horrible job at it. But if I don't see you over there, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.